workers, wherever you are, maybe a third country, whatsoever, but many of you, I'm sure, are thinking about the possibility of staying within Japan to work. And that's what today's about. But Ban gave me an introduction just now, but just to reinforce that I am Singaporean. I graduated from with a bachelor's last year actually from Todai. And this is what I'm doing right now. I am a programmer by work. But if you ask me what I studied in university, my bachelor's, it was Japanese domestic politics. And so if you want to ask me about how I became a programmer, that's a whole other story. Come talk to me later over tea, okay? Today's not about that. So this is what I do right now. In fact, this is maybe I think the most relevant here. I am working on a project for RIETI. RIETI is the think tank linked to METI, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry here in Japan. And the topic that we are working on right now is how do foreigners perceive working in Japan? What are the issues? What are the things that people appreciate about working in Japan? And this is why I'll be using some statistics in my presentation, but yeah. So today, the menu for today. The entree, please be prepared. We've had this twice already so far, but I want to reinforce the message. Number 2, understand Japan's recruitment system. Number 3, find your own path. And I think the third is very important here. I'll go into each one by one. But first, I want to scare you a bit. Why do I want to scare you? I'm saying that because when we're talking about being prepared, I want all of you, after these few slides, to think about how prepared you are right now if you want to find a job in Japan. So for example, I have a few numbers here. What do you think the number on the left and the right mean? Anybody have any idea for the one on the left? Water. Percentage of water in the human body. Do you study something along those lines? That's your field of research coming into play. Good answer, correct, but not in this situation. Applicant failure? No. You're close but not there.
Employment rates.
Employment rate? Close but not there.
The number of the percentage how people are aware of recruiting jobs, job recruitment.
Close but no cigar.
Or the students who go back home.
Actually, you're hitting, both of you hit this one, but not this one.
Simple as maybe somebody who they want to stay in Japan for working, 70%, right?
These two numbers are this. The percentage of foreign students who are thinking about working in Japan after they graduate is 70%, around 70%. And the right is the percentage rate of people who do manage to convert their student visa into a working visa. Half will fail. Is the current estimates that we have in the job market for foreign students. Now, what is the issue here? This is another number. What do you think this number is? Chinese lucky number. I wish you luck in your job hunting, but that's not what we're talking about. Anybody?
Maybe the company who accept international students.
Kind of far. Kind of far. Should I just give the answer? It is not a legal problem. For 10 people who apply to convert their student visas into a working visa, 9 will succeed. And the one person who doesn't succeed often has incomplete documentation, is being sponsored by a kind of like a suspicious company, and these kind of things. Frankly speaking, as MEC scholars, you are not going to face that situation. So which means that it's not a legal issue. And if it's not a legal issue, why do half of the people who are thinking of staying in Japan fail? For me, the answer the group that I work with have is that what we're seeing is that many foreign students are under-equipped to deal with the job market and also unable to find good companies. This does not mean that it's the fault of the foreign student. It is an ecosystem problem. But there are ways that all of us as foreign students can deal with it and can increase our chances to get a job within Japan. And the next slide is something that I wish I came first actually. You know why? Because Ula gave lots of spoilers for it, but these are all terms that the average Japanese job seeker will definitely know. And at the beginning of this whole talk, how many of you knew at least half of the terms here? Think about it yourself. This is why I'm scary. Not only that, there's another statistic I want to bring in here. This is a survey which I did 2 years ago about graduate students and how prepared are they for job hunting in Japan. You can see that actually Japanese government scholars at the top have reported the least satisfaction regarding career development opportunities. This is higher. I mean, you can see that this is satisfied, neither here nor there, and this is unsatisfied. This includes people like JICA and JASO as well. But nonetheless, many MEC scholars, you can see they have the smallest satisfaction rate and the biggest dissatisfaction rate. And so, by the way, in the job market right now, if you apply for the job, always write that you are a MEC scholar. Why? Because it is very well regarded. But in spite of being well regarded, why do we have this here? One reason, to be frank, is that MEC scholars, compared to these scholarships or a lack of scholarship, tend to have weaker Japanese abilities. And this is true based on the statistics. And so there is some element of this which cannot be controlled. But nonetheless, as I said before, the point of this is to scare you a bit into thinking about how well are you prepared for working in Japan. Think about yourself. Anyway, so after scaring you a bit, let's give you some information. Let's talk about Japan's recruitment system. You could see from Ula's presentation just now that Japan's recruitment system is rather peculiar. It's rather unique. Where else in the world do you have a one-day internship? Right. Where else in the world do you have a one-day internship? But this is, don't forget that Japan's recruitment system works for Japan in a way. There's lots of problems with it, but it's been that system for 40, 50 years already. It will probably change in the next 5 years, but you have to understand the situation if you want to approach finding a job strategically here in Japan. There are 5 questions I want to address today in this presentation. The recruitment cycle is the main thing which many people trip up at. Recruitment can start as early as 3 semesters before you graduate, which means please be aware, please also do your homework early. This has been said by the other 2 speakers as well. Usually foreign companies hire earlier, which means that 3 semesters before foreign companies, 2 semesters before Japanese companies. But there are some companies which also hire throughout the year. SoftBank is one example. Many small and medium companies also hire throughout the whole year. I cannot speak for PhDs though. I think Fernando can speak more for PhDs because PhD candidates do not have a template recruitment cycle compared to masters and bachelors students. So next question, what do you see here? What do you see here? Blank piece of paper and pen, right?
Yeah.
This is a good example for how we usually explain what Japanese companies want. So this is a generalization, but it's often said to be true for many Japanese companies, especially for their bachelor's level recruitment, that they prefer candidates to come in as blank pieces of paper for them to put all the company education on. Which means that often you may be surprised at how prior experience is not very much valued in fresh graduate recruitment. I don't mean that you should use it, but this is just something for your information. Next point, how much will you get paid? These are statistics from the Japanese Ministry of Justice. You can see that 80% of fresh graduates will get a monthly salary of less than 250,000. This may seem low, but generally speaking, what you have in big Japanese companies is that you have many months of bonus, One of my friends who was working for a trading company had this very bizarre system where that company gave the whole company, all the employees, 7 months worth of bonus for a whole year. And I'm like, if you want to do that, why don't you just increase the base salary? It doesn't really make any sense, but this is the situation which you will have. Pay differs by field. It differs by whether you're working for a foreign company or a local company. Overtime pay rules also differ heavily on the company. But yeah, this is what you can generally expect. But as masters and PhD students, you should be expecting more than this. You should be, like, in the first place, you are generally not in the 80% in the first place. You should be earning a bit higher. Just be aware that there are some certain sectors which tend to pay more. And one other thing, how much Japanese is needed depends heavily on the field. Though I have to preface this by saying that in any field that I know of, the candidate with a higher Japanese ability will be preferred, which means that if you are fighting against somebody else and your Japanese is stronger than a person, you are likely to get the job more than the other candidate. But nonetheless, this is the situation right now from what I understand about the recruitment scene in Japan. Strangely, headhunting does not need Japanese, but yeah, just for information. Big Japanese firms, you pretty much need an N1 unless you're working in a research field. That's what the story that I hear. So you're looking at things like Mitsubishi Corp. They expect you to be able to go in with all the cable. So good luck. So last question, and this may be of use for some of you who are worried about your first choices. The job market right now in Japan is so tight that even if you join a bad company at the beginning, the chances are that you will be able to move out of that position without that much difficulty if you actually look for a good company, like with some effort. So these are some of my friends actually. And you can see that 1 year, 4 months, 2 years, I quit my first job in 1 year. And the thing is, this is where I am right now. So just I shouldn't say that don't worry too much about your first job, but be aware that there are always options after your first job, and just take some time to experiment around, I guess. Don't sweat it, I guess. Yeah. Well, so those are just 5 little things that I wanted to state about this. This presentation will go on the MSA group later on. So you can take a look at the information later at your own time. And much of the information that I'm stating right now can be found on the internet already. Do your homework. Yes? So the last thing the third section of the talk is find your own path. Why am I saying find your own path? Because whatever I just explained to you is the forest. When you're looking for a job, you're looking for one single tree. Which means that even if the whole forest, not the whole forest, even if the majority of the forest has 50-hour overtime weeks, even if the rest of the ecosystem has low pay, it doesn't really matter because you are looking for that one job at the beginning of your career that will hopefully be a springboard for the rest of your career. What I'm also saying is the generalizations are important for you to understand, but in the end, you find your first job, and your first job does not have to fit the generalization. You get what I'm saying? So, this is probably what you think about when you're doing job hunting in Japan. And I have to say that this is really the reality of it, especially when you are in Tokyo in June and in May, and you see a big bunch of black and white walking around in your campus, and you're like, rikuto suzu. It's not very nice, and I can tell you that actually you don't have to do this. Why? My first job, personally, this is also because I work in startups, but I did not go for a single job interview before getting my first job. How? Because I entered my first job from a long-term internship, and so they liked me, and apparently, they like me, I like them, and the boss was like, hey, come work for us after you graduate. And I was like, okay. Yeah. and that was all. I didn't have to do this. What I'm saying is that the generalization, and that the overall shukatsu applies for the majority, but there's no reason why you cannot be in the minority. There are opportunities like this around, you just have to find them. And I'm going to give 2 tips for how you may find them, and this is something that I think that, this may be the most important thing that I want to talk about today. Number 1, network. How do you network? As a student, the 2 ways that are probably the easiest to network are the volunteering and like just getting to know random people. Random people are important. Okay? So what I mean by this, right now, Anirban is part of the 10x Kyoto team, Kyodai team, and these are the kinds of ways that actually you can get to know some people which may help you in your career in the future. So these kind of things. Osaka has lots of things happening as well, so it's not just Kyoto as well, like Osaka. There's nothing stopping you from just volunteering at an animal shelter, for example, and sometimes you get to meet interesting people by doing these. And also there's like the tools such as meetup.com. Compass is the Japanese version of meetup.com. Just go down there, have a beer, talk to people, maybe they'll be interesting. That's all there is to it. But what I really want to stress is this. Get out of your lab and your university. You did not come to Japan to just be stuck in your lab and your university. I don't mean don't do work. I don't mean don't study. What I mean is that when you're here in Japan as a Mac scholar, if you keep yourself to your university, you only see the 4 walls of your campus grounds. There is more to Japan, to that. And there are more opportunities outside your campus walls which you may not realize exist because you're still being in the lab or your university. I know we're all busy. But nonetheless, I mean, weekends, go somewhere, talk to people, make the effort to get out of your comfort zone, learn more Japanese, learn Kansai Ben. Yes, I still speak Kansai Ben because my first year was in Osaka. But yeah, so that's really what you need to do. Personal opinion, don't have to take it. And also, are you subconsciously cutting off your choices? This is a survey result these are the survey results from 2016 for percentages of types of companies that people will consider. You can see that there is a clear preference for big companies in Japan, and there are very big advantages for big companies in Japan, especially when you're doing something technical and research related. Big companies in Japan tend to have lots of resources for research. But nonetheless, are we perhaps forgetting the other choices that exist? The other choices which exist and can't really be found unless you go in and look for them. I'm talking about the small and medium companies in Japan because I work there. And I can tell you that there are many companies in Japan with very flexible working arrangements with international teams, but the problem is that you need to look for them. They won't come to you. They don't know that you're there. But if you look for them on platforms such as not really Mynavi and Mikulavi, because you get lots of big corporations, but things like Wanted, the outright board, those exist. It is why those exist that I am here. I actually work fully remotely. I don't have to go to the office. Things like that. So I wanted to keep it short. You can read the slides later at your own time. But before that, just 3 announcements that I want to make.